Imagine standing on a battlefield, knowing exactly how it ends, knowing the man you love is walking straight toward his death and being completely powerless to stop it. That is where Claire Fraser is right now. She has the knowledge, has seen the future written in black and white inside a book that should never have existed. And yet, here she is, watching Jamie strap on his weapons, kiss her on the forehead, and walk out the door like a man who has no idea that history has already made its decision about him. This is not a love story anymore. This is a countdown. And episode 7 of Outlander season 8 is where that clock hits the most dangerous hour it has ever reached. If you have been watching this final season and thinking it cannot possibly get heavier, then it already has. You are about to be proven wrong in the most emotional way imaginable. Asterisk. To understand why episode 7 hits the way it does, you have to go back to where episode 6 left things. 'Cause episode 6, titled Blessed Are the Merciful, did not give anyone a soft landing. It cracked things open in a way that the Fraser family is still bleeding from by the end of that episode. The war that Jamie and Claire thought they had left behind had made it very clear that it was not done with them. Fraser's Ridge, the home they built with their own hands, the land they poured years of their lives into, is no longer a safe place. It never really was, but now the danger is not just out on some distant battlefield. It is at the edge of their trees. It is in the faces of the people passing through their land. The American Revolution does not care that Jamie and Claire just want to live quietly and grow old together. It never did, and inside the house, things are just as fragile as they are outside. The family secrets that have been sitting underneath the surface of this entire final season finally started pushing through the soil in episode 6. There are things people know that they have not said out loud. There are looks exchanged across dinner tables that carry the weight of truths nobody is ready to speak. The Fraser family has always been good at holding things together through sheer love and loyalty. But love and loyalty can only carry so much before the cracks start to show. Then there is Brianna. She came back from the future carrying something that no one in the 18th century was ever supposed to hold. A book written by Frank Randall, Claire's first husband. A historian who looked back at the past and wrote down what he found. And what he found, tucked inside the pages of that book, is a detail about Jamie Fraser that changes everything. It says Jamie dies at the Battle of Kings Mountain. Not might die, not possibly. It says he dies there. It is written down like a fact, like history that has already happened. Because for Frank Randall, it had. Claire read those words. And once you read something like that, you cannot unread it. You cannot fold it back up and pretend it is not sitting inside your chest every time you look at your husband. She has been carrying that knowledge like a stone tied around her neck. And episode 6 showed us just how much the weight of it is pulling her under. She is a doctor. She believes in science and logic and the idea that things can be fixed if you are smart enough and fast enough and brave enough. But how do you fix a prophecy that is written in a history book? How do you argue with something that has already been recorded as fact? That tension between what Claire knows and what Jamie does not know is the live wire running through everything that is about to happen in episode 7. And it is about to be pulled tighter than it has ever been. Asterisk. There is something deeply cruel about a title that sounds like hope but carries the weight of a funeral. Evidence of things not seen. That phrase comes straight from the Bible, from a verse about faith, about believing in something you cannot touch, cannot prove, cannot see with your own eyes. And the writers of Outlander did not pick that title by accident. They picked it because it cuts right to the center of everything this episode is built around. Because every single person in this story right now is being asked to have faith in something they cannot see. Jamie is being asked to have faith that he will survive. Claire is being asked to have faith that the future is not fixed. The audience, every single person watching from their couch, is being asked to have faith that this love story does not end on a battlefield in South Carolina. But faith is a hard thing to hold on to when the evidence is stacked against you. This episode does not waste a single minute. From the moment it opens, the air feels different, heavier, like the sky before a storm that you know is coming but cannot do anything to stop. The ridge, which has always represented safety and home and everything Jamie and Claire fought to build, feels smaller in episode 7. The trees feel closer. The walls feel thinner. And that is entirely intentional, because the war has moved from being a distant noise to being something you can almost reach out and touch. Jamie Fraser has always been a man who runs toward danger rather than away from it. That is not stubbornness. It is who he is at his core. He believes that a man stands between the people he loves and whatever is trying to hurt them. He always has. Ever walked into, Jamie has never once flinched from doing what he believed was right, even when it cost him everything. And in episode 7, that instinct is about to be tested in a way it has never been tested before, because the thing he needs to stand against might be fate itself. The Battle of King's Mountain is no longer something off in the distance. It is coming, and everyone around Jamie knows it. The Patriot forces need men. They need leaders. And Jamie Fraser is exactly the kind of man that wars are built around. He is respected. He is experienced. He knows how to hold men together when everything around them is falling apart. So when the call comes, and in episode 7, comes loudly and without apology, Jamie does not hesitate the way Claire desperately needs him to. Starts to move toward it the way he always moves toward hard things. With his jaw set and his eyes forward and that quiet, unshakable certainty that this is what he is supposed to do. And Claire watches him do it. And she cannot breathe because she knows what King's Mountain means. She knows what Frank's book said. And the unbearable question that episode 7 forces her to sit inside is this: does she tell him? Does she look her husband in the eye and say the words that could shatter everything? Does she hand him the knowledge that history believes he dies at that battle and risk breaking? The one thing that makes Jamie Fraser dangerous on a battlefield, his absolute refusal to believe he will lose. Or does she stay silent, let him go, and live with the possibility that her silence was the thing that got him killed? That is the impossible choice the title of this video promised you. And it is not a choice made with weapons or armies. It is a choice made at a kitchen table, in a quiet voice between two people who have crossed time itself to be together. What makes episode 7 extraordinary is that it does not frame this as a plot problem to be solved. It frames it as a human problem, the kind that has no clean answer, the kind where every option leaves a scar. Telling Jamie the truth could paralyze him, change him, strip away the fearlessness that might actually be the very thing that keeps him alive. Staying silent means Claire carries the weight alone, watching the man she loves walk toward something she may not be able to stop, armed with nothing but the desperate hope that history got it wrong. And then there is Brianna, sitting somewhere in the middle of all of this, knowing what that book contains, watching her mother move through the days like a woman trying not to drown. Brianna came back through the stones because she loves her parents, because she believed she could help. But the book she brought with her may have set something in motion that no amount of love can undo. And episode 7 begins to pull that thread in a direction that will leave you completely still by the time the credits roll. Asterisk, the ridge is not safe. The family is fractured in ways that are not loud or dramatic, but quiet and deep, the way the most painful fractures always are. And somewhere out there, a battlefield is waiting with Jamie Fraser's name already written into its history. The evidence of things not seen is everywhere in this episode. In the way Claire touches Jamie's face a second longer than usual. In the way Jamie looks at the ridge like a man memorizing something he is afraid he might lose. In the small, careful silences between people who love each other too much to say. The thing that needs to be said: this episode is not about war. War is just the setting. This episode is about what knowledge does to love, about whether two people can survive, Not just a battle, but the truth. Asterisk there is a particular kind of pain that does not make any sound, does not scream, it does. Not slam doors or throw things across rooms. It just sits inside a person perfectly still and eats them alive from the inside out. That is the kind of pain Claire Fraser is living in right now. And if you have been watching this show since the very beginning, if you have followed these two people through Scotland and France and the Caribbean and the American colonies, through wars and prisons and losses that would have destroyed anyone else, then you already know that what is happening to Claire in episode 7 is the hardest thing this show has ever asked her to carry. Because Claire Fraser has survived almost everything. She has survived being ripped away from her own time. She has survived watching people she loved die in her arms. She has survived being accused of things she did not do, being hunted, being broken down, and somehow finding the strength to stand back up every single time. She is one of the most resilient characters ever written for television. But resilience has a limit. And that limit is standing right in front of her, sharpening his sword, completely unaware that the woman watching him from across the room already knows how his story ends. That image, Jamie preparing for war while Claire watches in silence, is the emotional center of episode 7. And it is devastating not because anything dramatic is happening in the scene. It is devastating because of everything that is not being said. Because of the 10,000 words sitting behind Claire's eyes that she cannot let out. Because of the way Jamie might look up and smile at her, that big, warm, completely unguarded smile that has been melting people since season 1. And Claire has to smile back. She has to hold herself together. She has to be the woman he believes she is, strong, steady, equal in every possible way, while internally she is coming apart at the seams. This is what episode 7 does that no other episode in this final season has managed to do yet. It slows everything down, strips away the battlefield noise and the political tension and the family drama, and it puts you inside a marriage, a real one. Not the romantic fantasy version of a marriage, but the version that exists after years and loss and time. The version where two people know each other so completely that they can feel when something is wrong without a single word. Being spoken. Jamie knows something is off with Claire. He is not a fool. He has never been a fool. He is one of the most emotionally intelligent characters this show has ever written, which tends to get overlooked because he is also physically fearless and breathtakingly good in a fight. But Jamie Fraser reads people the way Claire reads medical symptoms carefully, instinctively, with a depth of attention that most people never notice he is paying. And he has been watching his wife for days now, watching the way she goes quiet at certain moments. The way her hands sometimes stop moving when she is working, like her mind has gone somewhere far away and taken her with it. It's the way she looks at him sometimes, like she is trying to memorize him. He does not know what she knows, but he knows that she knows something, and that is where episode 7 places its most agonizing scene. Not on a battlefield, not in some dramatic confrontation with an enemy. It places it in a quiet room at night, when the ridge is still and the fire has burned low, and Jamie finally asks Claire directly what is going on, not with anger, not with suspicion. That gentle, unhurried patience that has always been one of the most remarkable things about him. He just asks, quietly. The way you ask someone you love when you already know the answer is going to hurt, but you need to hear it anyway. Because not knowing is worse. And Claire has to decide, right? There, in that moment, what she is going to do with the truth. This is the breaking point the outline promised. And it earns that name completely. Because whatever Claire decides in that moment, whether she tells him or whether she pulls him close and says nothing and lets the silence be her answer, something between them shifts. Something that has always been solid and certain and unshakable moves just slightly in a direction that neither of them can fully control. Because the thing about knowing the future is that it does not just change what you do. Changes who you are while you are doing it. Claire has been changed by what she read in that book, and Jamie is about to feel the shape of that change, even if he never learns the reason for it. What the writers have done in this episode is something genuinely rare in television. They have taken two characters that the audience has spent over a decade loving and placed them in a situation where there is no right answer, where the most loving thing Claire can do might also be the most damaging, where protecting Jamie might mean lying to him, where honesty might be the very thing that gets him killed. There is no hero move here. There is no version of this where someone does the right thing and everyone walks away intact. And Jamie, for his part, is carrying his own impossible weight in episode 7. Because Jamie Fraser is not a man who is afraid of dying. He never has been. What he is afraid of, the only thing that has ever truly frightened him, is leaving Claire alone. That fear has lived in him for years, quiet and constant, tucked underneath all that courage and certainty. And in episode, as the battle gets closer and the pressure builds and the men around him start looking to him for leadership the way they always do, that fear begins to surface. Not loudly. Jamie does not do loud fear, but in the small moments, in the way he holds Claire, in the things he says that sound like ordinary conversation but are really something much closer to a goodbye he is not ready to say yet. Two people, completely in love, both terrified, both carrying things the other one does not fully know, both trying to protect each other in ways that might actually be pulling them apart. That is the breaking point of episode 7, and it does not break with a crash. It breaks the way glass breaks, when the temperature drops too suddenly, quietly, completely, and in ways that cannot be undone. By the time this episode ends, Jamie and Claire Fraser will still be standing. They will still be together, but something will have passed between them that changes the texture of everything that comes after. Something will have been said or not said that the remaining episodes of this final season will have to carry. And if you have loved this show, if these two people have ever made you feel something real, then episode 7 is going to sit with you long after the screen goes dark. Asterisk. Every great story leaves doors slightly open before it slams them shut. And Outlander has always been a show that rewards the people who pay close attention, the ones who catch the small details. The looks that last a half second too long. The words that are chosen carefully because the wrong word would give everything away. Episode 7 is packed with those moments. And if you know what you are looking for going in, the experience of watching it becomes something else entirely. So, before you sit down on April 24th and press play, here are the things that deserve your full attention. The first thing to watch is weather. Jamie finds out what is inside Frank Randall's book. Not the whole book, not every detail, but specifically the part about King's Mountain. Okay. Because there is a version of episode 7 where Claire's silence breaks, where the weight of what she knows finally becomes heavier than her fear of what the truth might do to him. And if that moment comes, if Jamie Fraser sits down and reads the words that say he is supposed to die at that battle, the scene that follows will be one of the most important scenes this show has ever filmed. It's because Jamie's reaction will not be what most people expect. He will not panic. He will not rage. Jamie Fraser has been facing his own death since he was a young man in Scotland. And he has made a kind of peace with mortality that most people never reach. What will destroy him is not learning that he might die. What will destroy him is realizing that Claire has been carrying that knowledge alone. She has been standing next to him every single day, looking him in the eye and holding that. Inside herself, that is the thing that will crack him open. Not the battle, the silence. The second thing to watch is Claire. Specifically, watch her hands. It sounds like a small thing, but this show has always used Claire's hands as a storytelling device. When she is at peace, when she is in control, her hands are steady and purposeful, the hands of a surgeon who trusts herself completely. But when she is afraid, when she is holding something back, her hands give her away before her face does. In episode 7, there will be moments where Claire is performing perfectly fine in conversation, saying the right things, holding herself together on the surface, and her hands will be telling a completely different story. The writers and the actress have always understood that the body remembers what the mind is trying to forget. Watch the hands. They will show you everything Claire is not saying out loud. The third thing to watch is the ridge itself, the land. The physical space of Fraser's Ridge has always functioned as a kind of emotional mirror in this show. When things are good, the ridge feels expansive and full of light and possibility. When things are falling apart, the camera starts to close in. The spaces get tighter. The shadows get longer. In episode 7, pay attention to how the ridge is being filmed. Pay attention to whether it still feels like home or whether it has started to feel like something else, like a place that is already beginning to exist in the past tense. Because if the visual language of this episode is doing what good visual storytelling always does, the ridge in episode 7 will look different than it has looked before. It's not dramatically different, subtly different. It's the kind of different that you feel in your chest before your brain catches up and tells you why. Now for the fan theories. And there are some genuinely fascinating ones circulating right now that deserve serious attention. The most compelling theory going around is that someone else fulfills the King's Mountain prophecy in Jamie's place. Not as a substitution, not in some clean and convenient way, but in a way that is messy and human and completely in line with how this show has always operated. The theory suggests that a character who has been quietly moving toward a moment of sacrifice for several episodes now steps into the path of what was supposed to be Jamie's fate. Not to save him in a dramatic hero moment, but almost accidentally, the result of a choice made for completely different reasons that happens to redirect the course of events in a way nobody planned. This theory has weight because Outlander has never been a show that saves its characters through convenience. It saves them through consequence, through choices that ripple outward in directions nobody anticipated. If this theory is right, the emotional fallout will be extraordinary because Jamie surviving will not feel like a victory. It will feel like a debt. It's like something was paid on his behalf that he never asked anyone to pay. The second theory is darker and has been dividing the fan community right down the middle. This theory says that Frank Randall's book is not wrong, that Jamie does die at King's Mountain, but that the show is not going to end there. Because Outlander has always been a story about time. And time in this universe does not move in a straight line. This theory suggests that what looks like an ending is actually a door. That the final episodes are going to do something with time travel that the show has never quite done before. Something that reframes everything. This theory is harder to believe because it risks feeling like a cheat, like the show pulling its punch at the last possible moment. But the people who believe it point to the title of the very last episode of the entire series, and the world was all around us, and argue that a title like that is not written for a story that ends in a graveyard. It is written for a story that ends with something opening rather than closing. The third theory is the quietest one and possibly the most emotionally true. It says that the impossible choice of episode 7 is not actually about whether Jamie lives or dies. It says the real choice, the one the episode is secretly building toward, is whether Claire chooses to fight fate or chooses to trust Jamie with the truth of it. And that whichever choice she makes in episode 7 becomes the emotional foundation of everything that follows. That the final 3 episodes of Outlander are not really about the Revolutionary War or time travel or prophecy at all. They are about 2 people deciding, one last time, what they believe in, about whether love is strong enough to walk into the dark without knowing what is waiting on the other side, about faith. Real faith, the kind that does not require evidence, the evidence of things not seen. That phrase is going to mean something different to you by the time episode 7 is over. It is going to feel less like a Bible verse and more like a description of everything Claire and Jamie Fraser have ever been to each other. Because from the very beginning, From that first moment in the Scottish Highlands, when two completely impossible people found each other across centuries of separation. Their entire love story has been built on believing in something that made no logical sense. Something that could not be proven. Something that should not have been possible. And yet, here they are. Still standing, still together. On the edge of the hardest episode this show has ever asked them to live through. Episode 7 of Outlander Season 8. Evidence of Things Not Seen. Drops on April 24th exclusively on Starz. If you are not already subscribed, this is the episode that will make you understand why people have been devoted to this show for over a decade. And if you have been here from the beginning, if you were there in Scotland in 2014 when this all started, then you already know that what is coming is going to matter. It's going to stay with you. It's going to remind you exactly why you fell in love with these characters in the first place.